are starting in 8 seconds. Everybody good?
Sounds good.
Welcome everybody. This is a 42+1, and with me today are Dups and Ric from Empire Avenue, and we also have people from the community, and I'd first let everybody introduce themselves. So let's start with you, Anise, if you could introduce yourself.
I have digital marketing.
Well, and that's how we start. Let's go to Kim.
Hey everyone, my name is Kim Reynolds, and I have a company called Quicker.me, social directory, and also Savvy Media Marketing, and we specialize in social media and Empire Avenue portfolio management.
Okay, and we'll switch over to Makeba. If you can introduce yourself, Makeba.
Sure. Hi everybody. I'm Makeba, N-A-K-E-B-A, also on Empire Avenue, and I have a photography business which I fuse into social media to help small businesses market their business across the social media scene. And I have a background in information technology, so I kind of make all those different things work together, and I love Empire Avenue.
And what's nice about this is I've known most of these people for close to a year now, and this is the first time we've all been together on a visual mechanism. Ric, this is the first time I've actually seen you face-to-face. I've met Dups obviously in real life a couple of times, but we've yet to meet face-to-face. So if you can introduce yourself, Ric.
Sure, I'm Ric Williams, COO. Dups is right hand, left hand, and his legs sometimes as well. So.
And Dups?
Yep, and I'm the, they call me CEO, co-founder of Empire Avenue along with Mike and Niall, who are the other two co-founders. And yep, I am Ric's left-hand man.
There you go. So we lost Anise, and we are going to try to get her back on the Hangout, and we might also be getting Dylan there. There's Anise, so let's see if we can get Anise to introduce herself. Let's try that one more time, Anise. If you can introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Anise Smith. I have a digital marketing company. We specialize in social media and actually merging a lot of traditional medias with digital media. It's Anise Smith Marketing.
Perfect. And for those of you watching my camera, we also have a live audience of a few people right here in Brantford, Ontario. And we just finished our social business hangout where we actually did do a podcast on Empire Avenue. So what I want to do is we've done a lot of talking about Empire Avenue in the past. A year ago, I actually got to sit down with Dups in front of a live audience in Toronto, and it was a good 1-hour interview there. And I don't want to necessarily recap that again. What we also did is the podcast is kind of the from here to now transition, and we did that with Julie Coons and Ron Lauch. What I'd like to focus tonight mostly on is the future of Empire Avenue. And I'll turn it over to you, Ric and Dups. The thing that comes out every time I talk about Empire Avenue, right down to the podcast we just did, community. It always seems to come down to community. Your thoughts on community as it relates to Empire Avenue?
So community is ultimately the most important thing about any product, I think. You know, it's one of those things that I personally wish we had more time and we spent more effort. And I think that's something that we accept that with a small team, a lot of us being in development, that we don't get to do. But it's these things that remind us how important community actually is. Because ultimately, that's what Empire Avenue is really about. And ultimately, it's what any product is about. If you feel part of the community of whatever product that you're in, especially in a human product, where it's human capital, where it's humans chatting with each other and meeting each other, then it is community. And if you're not building community, then what are you building? So it reminds us that sometimes we have to actually come out of our computers and our codes. And we do that. We spend a lot of time. And you know, the funny thing about it is people laugh at he laughs at my share price a lot. Part of it is that, you know, since we met in May of last year, was it April of last year? And we went through the summer and you know, it was myself and a couple of others just going hard trying to do community and coding. I actually took a step back a little bit and tried to do a little bit more of the business, learn more of the business, and try to understand what we were doing. And Ric's been helping me do that, to understand that. And Ric actually took on a lot of community stuff from me, which is really, really good. But it does remind me, as I watch my share price plummet, I'm a really good buy, by the way, right now, just by pointing it out, that
forever the salesman.
forever the salesman, because I'm going to actually come back into the community to actually drive some things, right? So I mean, and that's a good thing. It's a good reminder. So when I meet you, Robert, and I go, hey, you know, that year, it's good to be reminded that I need to come back out as well. So.
Yeah, and I think the other thing about the platform is that from a community point of view, we've got this great mechanism that's called investing in shares in others. And that mechanism allows you to keep touching base with people who you may not have spoken to or talked with for a while. And we're forever trying to develop new things behind the scenes to allow you to do that. So, you know, bringing in bonuses that help you connect more often or buy more, invest in more shares in friends kind of helps that community feel, because it gives you a reason to come back. Sorry, as an iCal event just pops up in front of me. So yeah, I think the platform itself is a nice natural way to stay connected to people. And doing things like this, Robert, you know, thank you very much, because we really appreciate it.
This is the offline equivalent of you investing shares in me. So it actually, you know, gets me back. It's that pain, that hey, ooh, it's good.
You brought up an interesting aspect about, you know, the key to community is getting people to come back. And I think that's something that also came up in the conversation. You have some people that join, stay for a little bit, disappear. There's some people that join, play for 6 months, leave, come back, play for 3 months, leave, come back, play for 3 months. What is Empire Avenue doing behind the scenes to make that community building thrive after those initial connections?
So initially, for the short term, one of the things we're doing is actually looking through our code and trying to make the platform a little bit more scalable for us to fix. And I'm talking from a technical point of view, because without fixing that, we can't actually go on forward. So you're asking about the future. That's part of the initial bit. The second thing is then to actually ask you what we should be doing. How can we actually go out and do that? It's one of the things that we're doing.
Mm-hmm. But I also think the aspect of touching base and connecting is something that's really important, and giving people a reason to come back. So I may have invested in 1,500 people as an example. I've seen the end of the usefulness of Empire Avenue, but that reason to come back is to continually connect, and therefore putting mechanics in behind the scenes with the boys and gals. Well, we haven't got any gals yet.
No, not yet.
We had one, yeah. She was disappointing. Just jokes. They're great friends, aren't they? Yeah. So, you know, adding in more reasons to connect and having more reasons to utilise it as a connection platform is something that we really see as important, and having fun. Dups is blushing. Yes, he is, actually.
Yeah.
You know, it's one of the things I love whenever I get to talk to Dups, because I know Dups' personality. But Ric, for you, I'm just starting to pick it up in real life, because I could tell that it was there via your Facebook and whatnot. But to actually listen to you speak for the first time in a while.
Well, I loved Ryan's question on Facebook yesterday. What was it yesterday? You know, wouldn't you love to be able to gain your own platform? It's like, what sort of a question is that? So I wrote back to him and said, well, if you could actually discover all my fake accounts, then maybe you might know what I'm doing. So.
Okay, so as you said, it's been a year since the last time we talked about it, and community was strong a year ago, and we were very much in that same state that we kind of just talked about, keeping people coming back, giving them a reason to be there. You introduced, in my mind, what was a game changer. That was the missions. I'd like to maybe get your thoughts on what you've learned about the missions, where missions stand right now, and where missions are going to be going forward. And maybe just a brief overview to people that don't know what a mission is, because I think it kicks in only after a certain share price.
Do you want to do that?
Okay, I'll do a quick intro, and Ric can speak to a little bit about where it's going and what we're doing with it.
Perfect.
So Missions was created as a way for individuals to create tasks or ideas or things to do for other individuals in social media. So therefore, I could ask you to go check out my blog post, and we thought we could be really interesting by putting it into our economy. So by finding ways to reward your great shareholders, the people who you have built a community around, for participating in a mission or doing a mission, and also to create new community members by the kind of content that you're pushing through missions. So that was the idea. It's peer-to-peer task system, basically, built around our economy. And we introduced that in the latter part of 2011, October 2011. And we saw an immediate, incredible rise in people using it and how kind of really neat things that people were creating. And we saw some downsides to it as well. So we spent the better part of the beginning of the year trying to understand exactly what we were trying to do with it. And we're still in that stage because ultimately, with game mechanics, one of the things you find is you do one thing, things change in another way that you didn't expect it to actually do. So with that in mind, over to you, Rick.
So as you've seen, after the launch, about a couple of months in, we launched YouTube missions, which basically allowed you to set up a YouTube mission and reward people directly for watching a whole video. The interesting stat that we've got out of that is that only 3% of missions being made were utilising that tech, which is an interesting thing from my perspective because there's a whole thing around mission thieves or EAv thieves. Basically you create a mission and then people just take the EAVs and don't complete what you've asked them to do.
My favorite term is click and run.
Click and run, yeah, click and run's good. Honestly, we're trying to solve those issues, and so one of the cool pieces of tech that we've got built right now is actually in and behind Facebook. So being able to like a page, but only reward people after they've clicked like. We're having some technical difficulties on the back end with our friends at Facebook. You may have seen Facebook pages being disconnected occasionally or every day in some cases. We're trying to fix that issue right now. And then we'll get back to delivering missions that within Facebook where you can actually set up a mission. You say, please come and like my Facebook page, and there will be a reward. There will be special rules around that because there's certain terms and conditions in and behind the Facebook terms that we don't want to breach because our friends at Facebook, we love them a lot. So that piece of tech is being built out right now. It's basically ready. We've got a few bugs behind the scenes that we need to fix. So we're hoping to roll that out fairly soon. And then you can imagine that then starts to step into all sorts of other things. So, and we're more than willing to talk to people. So for example, Makeba or Kim, you may have businesses that want to get involved in Empire Avenue and you want to create missions for them, let's say to sign up to a newsletter off of their page. Then we're more than willing to work with the community to actually get hooks into place that people only get rewarded for actually doing or completing the action. We're more than happy to work with you on those. And as an example, a newsletter sign up or a code download or a white paper download or anything like that, we're more than happy to work with folks to get those types of things in place. Because we really do honestly see missions as being something that we'd like to work on. I mean, the interesting thing is that we've seen also is that the completion rates have fallen. So what I mean by that is initially back in October you could put a mission up and basically it would be guaranteed that it would be completed. So if you had 50 rewards available for 2,000 EAVs each, they would be taken up pretty quickly. We're seeing 400 and 500 missions being created a day, which could mean between 10 and 50 to 100 or even more rewards being rewarded. And so what we're seeing is that front page clicks through fairly quickly. And if you're not on the front page, you're not getting completed, which is the same Google thing. So we're working on technology behind the scenes to enable people to potentially sponsor a mission so that you get it sticky until it's completed. or anything else like that to enable people to get better completion rates and things like that. So we are working on missions, and it's something that's very important to us. We've also got that piece of technology where we're happy to work with folks. So we'd like to work with the community more on delivering better things for your customers, and we can work with you on that. Makeba's got a question. Needs to be another factory description.
So while Rick is reading that, I actually have an answer to that. But while Rick is reading that and saying that, one of the things that the community should realize is that we do read a lot of what people type. And there's been some great blog posts that have come out about how to solve some of the problems. We actually read through them, and there are some really great ideas.
Mm-hmm.
So when you write a blog post about missions or what you think is a good idea, and you want community input on it, let us know too, so that we're reading it. Because, for example, we totally get the whole reputation, the idea of a reputation system to try and figure out who are actually completing missions, who are not actually completing the missions at the end of the day. Like if I ask for a comment and I don't actually get a comment, someone just clicks through. So and being able to identify those people through a reputation system like eBay. So we've been testing a few things out, like rolling around ideas internally. And so, by the way, just for the answer, the question from Makeba is also, so it seems there needs to be another factor of distribution, blah, blah, blah. Being able to view a list of people that completed the mission.
You can view a list, but we can't interact with it, right?
Exactly.
And so that's a really good piece of input. Pretty easy to do.
Exactly. And the other thing about it is, not only is it easy to do, but I think what Makeba is also pointing out is another bug, which is once you archive the mission, I don't think you can actually see that list.
Yes, you can now.
You can now? Okay, well, there you go. That got fixed. So there you go. And
things happen so fast, the CEO doesn't even know what's coming.
Well, I think that's one of the key
Nobody
things.
wants to tell me anything wrong.
One of the things that I have noticed is that you do respond very quickly, and I think it's because you do see the data behind the scenes. You know where things are going. And for me, I've always said, to me, Empire Avenue is almost like a CRM system. For me, it's more than just a game. And when you introduce missions, it was a way of me using virtual currency to actually get digital, physical outcomes. Because if I'm running a campaign, it became my tribe. I ran my campaigns through my tribe. It was my way of priming the pump, if you will. So as a way of doing a release, you're able to get it to a much larger crowd. I have turned on the chat. I'm not sure if this is showing up on the live hangout or not. If it is, you get a sense for some of the conversations that are going on behind the scenes. If you don't see it, it's because we don't know what we're doing. So let me throw the question back to Dups and Rick. Your thoughts on Empire Avenue and the world of social CRM?
It's funny. You should say that, Robert. Social media rocket fuel was where we ended up for the South by Southwest relaunch, if you will. But it's funny that you talk about CRM as being the ultimate CRM tool, because it's something that we talk about every day, that it is a great business tool to be able to do that. So actually surfacing those tools, and not only the CRM piece, which is kind of the aftermath, but also the priming the pump piece that you talk about. It's almost that complete loop. When you're about to launch something, or you're priming something, or a Kickstarter campaign, as Kim and Jackie did really well with Sean TV, you're priming the pump, you're utilising the missions as a tool to drive awareness, get people converted, get them actually up and going, and then you can use it as a reward system as well to say, hey, thanks very much for coming in, and hey, here's the next step. So it's really interesting that there could be potential for that in the future. I'm not going to say anything else.
Dups, do you want to add anything, or?
No.
So let me turn around that, because to me, when we talked about this, a year ago, the big question was it's perceived as a game, and it's a game, sure, it's got game mechanics, But at the end of the day, and I think, Rick, you nailed it best, it is a business tool. And I know Makeba in the comments said it's her social CRM app as well. And I know that the more I do in that space, the more I live in that space. So by the very fact of not only it being a game, but also a tool set does drive me back in there. One of the things that did get lost, and I'm not lost in the sense that you removed the functionality, but got weighted down, was the idea of shareholder mail. Because to me, that was no different than a MailChimp or whatever, right? You had the ability to reach out. That's kind of disappeared because of the noise. So maybe your thoughts on, you know, CRM, social shareholder mail. How do we get that back?
I think one simple answer is to remove it from missions. I think we've ummed and ahed, and I think we just need to make a decision, to be honest. I think every time we go to the community and ask, we kind of get a 50-50 split. Oh, please don't take it away because it's a great way for me to get awareness for my missions, but then the other side of it is it's too much noise, and you've removed the positive thing about what shareholder mail was.
So, and I think one of the other ways to look at it is if we're using shareholder mail to promote missions, but shareholder mail is being used differently, maybe the actual underlying root cause and the problem is that there is no way to promote your mission. And that is something that we should also work on. So therefore, shareholder mail should be what it was, which is shareholder mail. It's my way to communicate. And then basically the underlying problem that we need to solve is how do you get visibility to the missions that you create so that people know who you are and get doing what you are. And I think that one of the things that Rick didn't bring up is public missions. So one of the stuff that we have is right now the missions are hidden behind our login screen. So, if you share a mission, nobody gets to see your mission, which is unfortunate. So that's one of the simplest changes that we are considering changing after we do this one code cleanup.
One of the things that you and I kind of talked a bit about was the initial shock of arriving in Empire Avenue, and you were kind of talking about phasing people into the game. And the beauty of any game is the noob starts at the noob level, and they get more powers and more skills and the cool-ass weapon and all that type of stuff. Do you kind of see some observations in that space you'd like to share?
Yeah, the funny thing is, so we user test Empire Avenue more so now since there's, by the way, a great site by the name of usertesting.com. I'm happy to plug them simply because they are fantastic and everyone should go use them for their websites and projects. Personally, usertesting.com. They should pay me. But anyway, so usertesting.com is great because we ran people who've never been on Empire Avenue through the system. And we watched them actually use the product. We immediately found out how complicated Empire Avenue was. This was a while back, mind you. And so we tried to simplify and make the interface as simple as possible to try and get new people on. So we actually discovered that the changes we made were really good for new people, but actually was hurting the older people. So it's always that balance. So and I think I mentioned this to you, Robert, when we met in Toronto, was that one of the things that we are moving ahead with is to try and figure out the nicest way to show a simplified interface depending on who you are and when you are actually there.
Yeah, once again, that's usertesting.com, and we'll have a link underneath the video when all is said and done. So what I'd like to do right now is throw caution to the wind and open this up to those that are here. So for those of you that I'm going to turn off the selection of the screen, and if you can unmute yourselves, we'll let Makeba, Kim, and Anise have their questions answered, and you may also have some questions from the people in the room. So who wants to go first?
Well, I don't really have a question particularly, but maybe a discussion topic. I think with new people that join Empire Avenue, there's that difficulty of figuring out what to do and how to get around. You don't want to dumb it down too much for the people that are already on there. What do you guys think would be a solution, not a software solution, but an actual user or, I mean, I thought, well, okay, maybe some sort of a mentoring thing for new users, but that would be unmanageable really quickly. Anise or Makeba, have you thought about ways of helping the new people to help retain them on the site? Because we obviously are investing in Empire Avenue and want to go.
Okay,
So
so
we're
what I'm
thinking
going to ask
Tuesday.
is, before we get into that, Makeba, can I just get you to mute for 1 second? Because we're getting a bit of feedback from you. So maybe what we'll do then is the person asking the question, go ahead and unmute yourself. If you're not asking the question, mute yourself back. Obviously, Rick and Dups stay connected. So do you want to maybe just quickly repeat the question, Rick or Dups?
Sure. So Kim is asking what are the some of the solutions that we can come up with to make the experience great for new people coming in, but also relevant and easy to use for the people who've been on there for a while. So there's two things that we can do there. One is to slowly bring the interface in. So Niall's been working on basically a back to basics version of our interface that does actually address almost most of the issues that the folks in the community who've been with us for a long time have had with the changes we made. In that process, what we're looking at is that interface to be introduced over a period of time, and we're trying to figure out exactly what that time is, how long it takes for a new item to show up, and when that item shows up, to actually explain that item. For example, you may come in as a new person to Empire Avenue and only see expand, engage, evaluate, which is kind of the message from the beginning, so it's born in through. And then maybe after 15 minutes, missions pops up as a navigation item. And there's a big, you've just unlocked missions. Here's what you can do with missions and how you can take it. Now, that's one way of doing it. The second is actually through you. And I actually didn't you as in the community, because I think one of the great things about our community is how educating they actually are. And one of the beautiful things about that is trying to figure out ways to show that, to encourage ways for you to educate new people. Now, we could do that through the chat system that we have there as well. That's one part potential. Another way is to involve you all more in how we reach out to community. Community reaching community is way better than us doing it, because ultimately you guys know exactly what it is that people are asking and how to help them.
Yeah. Did that answer your question, Kim?
I think the only thing I'd add to that is making it scalable, because ensuring that touching base with a human being, I think, is important, but making sure that you guys, if you get involved in that, you're able to actually do it well, because there's nothing worse than I missed 20 people today, I couldn't do it. It just becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy downhill. So we want to make sure that that's a scalable proposition to help you guys out and help us, obviously.
And another factor is like people like Ben Arledge and EAv.net fulfill a need that we just can't do. I mean, as much as we'd like to do, we would end up making the interface even more complex. I mean, this is a great problem that we actually deal with on a daily basis, is basically how many more features do you add before you can't use the site? And that's where Empire Avenue has come to, right? So it's hard when we cut features or move features away, but we're doing it because ultimately there are third-party folks, people in the community who are building tools around us. That's great.
Okay, so Makeba, you had a question. Just make sure your mic is unmuted.
So actually, Makeba, that has been very much an issue. So the question is, and I will say to people who are not reading the thing, is I'll read the whole thing out. Right now, what concerns me is the engage element, yet no easy way to see, find, and use EAv communities. Since the UI update, the link to find communities where new users may be able to find help is not as easy to find. Can this be added in a more prominent spot next to expand, engage, evaluate, etc.? The answer is yes, and I have seen it in the prototype of the stuff that Niall's been working on. There you go.
And we got 2 thumbs up from Makeba, so I think we're happy there. Anise, did you have a question? And just make sure you turn your mic on.
Well, I don't really have a question. It's more of a comment. I came in Empire Avenue. I started Empire Avenue maybe like a year and a half ago. I stepped out, then I came back in, and then I recently started as a noob and I found the entire thing so much more difficult than when I started originally. I don't know if it was the people that I was surrounded with. I came in maybe December of 2011 or 2010, I believe. It was the first year. It had just kind of started up. I was with the aerial crowd and a couple of the kind of heavy hitters at the time or whatever. And I just found it to be so much more difficult. I don't know if it's the interface, it's their interaction with people. The interface, well, I know the interface kind of freaked me out, and I was like, oh my God, I can't find anything. So I tend to use the EmpireAvenue.net a little bit more. So now I'm juggling my primary account, and I'm also juggling a new account, and I find that I'm just having so much more challenges with the new account as a noob. So I guess my point is that I see as one of the players that are kind of a little bit that have been around a little bit. I kind of see the struggles of a noob. So I see things from a little bit of a different perspective since I have both accounts now. But I think a lot of it is the interface and how difficult it is to maneuver around as opposed to how it was initially. And I understand that things change and all that stuff, but it is a little difficult because it's hard to find the things that I'm kind of used to going to in my mainstays and that.
Any thoughts on that, Rick or Dups?
Yeah, look, I think with any web application, UI and UX, or user experience and user interface, is the most difficult thing to get right by any means possible. You know, both our background in video games, me more on the marketing, Dups more on the back end, but getting that user interface and user customer experience right is very, very difficult. So we understand your pain. We look at it on a daily basis and try and fix it, and this is where Niall's coming in to spend a lot of time there to try and get it right. And it's not as if we've walked away from it. It's a matter of saying, okay, what's working and what's not, and then trying to understand that and build towards a better solution. So trying to help as many people as possible.
And so one of the interesting things in the past is that we would roll out incremental changes and move the navigation around a bit here and there. So we've learned from the changes we made in March, that we rolled out in March, and we understand where we were 6 months ago. So the hybrid solution with a little bit more, I guess, rollout of the navigation to a new person is where we've come to. So interestingly enough, I used the new prototype that Niall had produced. I don't know if Niall is very happy about me revealing all this, but find out when he tells us. Is that I actually discovered it easy to discover the stuff that I'd actually been missing. I'd actually forgotten that there were X, Y, and Z because I'd been using the new interface so much. And so I think people will actually like it a little bit more, and I hope they do.
When are we looking at potential alpha, beta?
Oh gosh, you'll never get me to commit to a date anymore.
Okay, well let me ask you this question, and this comes from Ron right here in Brantford. Numbers. What can you tell us number-wise in terms of active members, current members, growth? What are you able to share with us? It's been a year since last time we talked. What's your year been like?
Yeah. It's so we are at 100,000 users who reach 50 million active Twitter and Facebook accounts.
It's not bad at all. Not bad at all.
Yeah, and I mean, it's fairly public. Paul Steinbeck's out there publishing it just about every day. I mean, we're adding 100, 150 a day new people to the site, and actives anywhere between 15 and 30,000 a week. Sort of coming in and out and flowing and buying and selling and doing all sorts of fun stuff. So that's where we're at right now.
So one of the interesting things is that if you create, so I can give you some random numbers here just because they're in my head. So for example, if you target a mission towards someone who is interested in missions, target a mission towards someone who's interested in music, of the people that complete missions, who like music, who are interested in music, for example, and believe me, music is actually not as high. It just happens to be the number that's in my head because of the conversation earlier. is you will reach a potential of 3 to 4.5 million Twitter and Facebook unique people.
The acquisition rate is definitely there. The one thing you brought up, though, is are you potentially talking about introducing missions down to topic interests? Is that what I'm kind of picking up there?
The difficulty that we've got with doing that, Robert, is just the pure number of interests and how do you present it.
So as I say, a poll down just would not work.
75,000 is kind of what we're at, and different spellings and pulling
different languages
and Facebook and all that sort of stuff. So the difficulty becomes in actually how do you put a user interface together without overcomplicating it that actually makes it easy for you to do it. So we've had prototypes in the back engine for a while trying to deal with that issue, but as you can hear, the list of projects that you just mentioned today, it's this list as long as my arm.
Yeah, and you are still very much a small team. Kim, turn on your mic. You had a good question there.
Okay. Ask my question?
Yeah, go for it.
The last one. Well, I was wondering, what about a way of helping the new people and rewarding your existing players that, I mean, my stock is at the top of the leaderboard, and that's not an accident. I actively work every day to make sure it stays there, and I do put a lot of time into it. It's a labor of love, but it is work. And what about finding, for instance, if there were an area, Makeba talked about an area where, like, for instance, I could say, okay, well, here's a bunch of how-to videos for new people, and someone else who's earned the, who's a top stock, who's kind of worked their way up to that position, say, okay, well, here's my blog where you can go and learn this, this, and this. And then another person, I don't know what criteria you would use, or, but it would be kind of a reward system for the top players, and also a way of helping the new people in there. The only reason why I say the top people is I've seen several people right now with videos, Empire Avenue secrets, or how you can become a top stock, and without a doubt, the ones that I've seen, they suck. And I mean, seriously, if they're so great and have the secret sauce figured out, then why aren't they a top stock? But they're they're putting their information out there, which is fine. I mean, they're welcome to do that. But I think that people do want the information, but it also serves a dual purpose of keeping the people that really have invested their time and energy promoting Empire Avenue, keeping them engaged and continuing their investment, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. Actually, it's for us, it's actually trying to figure out how to manage that in a lot of ways. It's the scaling of that kind of thing. So one way to do that, for example, a quicker way to do that is for us to start getting more guest blogs in onto our blog, make our blog a destination for that kind of stuff. And certainly, and Makeba, absolutely, once you're a part of that guest blog or have that, then bring badges in for helping that and doing that. The other thing that we want to put back, we've talked about this for a little while, is putting back it used to be that there was a chat room that was always open. I think it was created by some of the community members called Xpar, and new people would come in and go, hey, what is this? And people would actually educate people. So probably going to think of putting that back in. It's a little bit harder for us to figure out exactly who's helping who from there, that's for sure, right? Another way is to do community awards, that basically where you vote on people in the community to thank them for the help they've created. So there's a number of different ways. It's a matter of figuring out a good scalable way, because obviously we can't manage it on a day-to-day basis. And we wouldn't want you to be able to manage it either, because that's actually would take time away from doing your other stuff. It has to be something that works for you without undermining your work during the day, and that allows as much as possible. I mean, the word scale comes to mind a lot, by the way. So one of the interesting things is over the last little while is that we get compared to the Pinterest of the world, the Facebooks of the world, and whatever the case may be. And one of the hardest learning factors for us to realize and to understand about our community was that our appeal in our community isn't millions of people coming onto Empire Avenue, but it's the millions of people that you reach through your communities. So we actually didn't quite understand that, and we, I think, chased this pie-in-the-sky idea that what we wanted were millions of people. What we actually want is people who are super connected, and which is why we're actually very proud of the community that we have. Not actually the, we don't want 1 million people, of which 900,000 are not actually active.
Yeah, I've always used the term super engager. It seems that Empire Avenue brings out the people that super engage, and I think the game dynamics in itself play a role in that, but just in general, the class of people, that sounds off, but the class of people seem to want it because they give and take. They're both giving engagement and expecting engagement. So what has engagement mean to the life of Empire Avenue? Has that been the secret sauce, if you will?
Is that this one? Yeah, it's cheers. Thanks.
Hey, you're welcome. I'm talking a lot. I feel that.
We love your sultry tones. What does engagement mean? It's everything. I think whenever we go and do something in and around bonuses, we see engagement go up, and how do we measure that? We see people come back. We see more and more buying and selling happen on the site, more buying than selling, thankfully, which means positive engagement. And Missions has been a great tool to enable that type of engagement at another level. Not just through buying and selling, but also engaging people in their content and winding people up towards a launch or doing whatever people want. I think one of the questions before from, I think it was Kim, was any chance of reformatting the community level. It's an interesting question in that it's a double-sided sword, I think, in that people are already on Facebook and utilising Facebook very well within the groups that are there. So I'm lucky enough to be invited to half a dozen or so Empire Avenue-based groups on Facebook. The amount of engagement that actually happens on Facebook because you're getting rewarded for it in a certain way through Empire Avenue is actually quite high. Could we replicate that on Empire Avenue? Probably we could. But once again, it's that long as your own list of priorities to ensure that other types of engagement happen. And I think Kim's question, watch this space, is the answer, because I think it is something that we need to do and bring back again, which is a little bit more of the human being element. And that this type of thing is really important to us. Thus, I was really happy that you guys got together over in Toronto and had a beer and talked about this type of thing. It's awesome. We need to do it better ourselves, I think, and encourage you guys to do it to get that scale. We talk about scale and that fear of stepping into the unknown. I think handing over the reins a little bit more to folks like you, Robert, and others around the place, I think will help us out too. So,
yeah, I think it's really interesting is that we come from a background where community was strongly managed, right? Where you have strong community managers who try to get games to go to a certain degree or wherever, and everything is looked at. One of the interesting things, and that's changed over the years in the games industry too, by the way. But it's, you know what? We love our product, and we love community so much in our product that I think over the last few months is that our realization has come that it's time to actually turn the community, our product, to the community to actually drive community, which is a very strange thing to think about. And most companies would go, well, that's super dangerous because what happens if the community decides to take the product? Well, you know what? If you guys decide you want to take the product and form really great educational things around it, I think you'll actually make not only yourselves better and us as a company better. And so I think that's really the next step of how social media works. I mean, you have all come together as part of social media to create a company. Look, it's true. We created the product. We created the product, and we have an entity that's called a company around it. But you've made Empire Avenue. You take you away, there is no Empire Avenue. It's a piece of code that sits on a server somewhere. So why not actually hand the product to you to really engage the people and drive it?
So we're getting close to the mark. So what I'd like to do is end off on exactly what you just said. We have Anise, Kim, and Makeba here. So maybe just go through each of you, reintroduce yourself, let people know your ticker, and answer the question, if Empire Avenue was your platform, what would you do with it? And I'll start with you, Anise.
Hi, my name is Anise Smith. My ticker is Anise Smith. And I have a small digital marketing company that specializes in mixing traditional media with digital media, QR codes, and that kind of thing. And, of course, blogging, web analytics, and all of the fun bells and whistles of social media, in addition to traditional social media, of course. I think with Empire Avenue, I would just continue to do what we're doing. I think you've offered an amazing platform for some of the most amazing people that I've ever run across, players in the whole social media game, people that are not necessarily me-focused, but people that are community-focused. And I found that it's so many people like that that's playing this game, and I would just continue doing what you guys are doing. You guys have done an amazing job, and I just have been able to meet some really amazing people. So keep doing what you're doing.
Okay, so on to Kim. Reintroduce yourself and make sure your mic is on. No, your mic's off, Kim.
Okay.
There we go. Perfect.
Kim Reynolds. I own Quicker.me, which is basically a social media directory, and Savvy Media Marketing, social media marketing, website design, and Empire Avenue portfolio management. As far as what I would, if Empire Avenue were mine, I feel very, I don't know, it is mine in a way because I spend so much time there, I live there, and I don't know that I would really specifically change anything other than try to find a balance to help the new people and retain them, because as a user and somebody who loves it, I can't imagine if Empire Avenue went away, what would I do all day? But I'd like to make it easier or find a way to help the new people. When I started, I didn't go back for 4 months, 3 or 4 months. I joined, Chris Voss got me to join. I don't know how he did it. I don't even know how I stumbled in there. And the first day I'm like, what? And I didn't go back for 3 months at all, not once. And then finally I went and logged back in and joined a group. That made all of the difference. And it was amazing. It's been amazing for me, and it can help so many people and help so many businesses. I mean, the potential for small businesses to market themselves, and also the whole social media for social good, like what we did with Project Forgive. That was amazing. So many people still are coming up and emailing and messaging like, oh, we want to know more about Empire Avenue. Look what we heard about him through the Project Forgive, and there's so much that can be done through Empire Avenue, and I'd like to get that message out to more people, what an amazing tool it is. So I'm sure you guys are already working on doing that. One way you could do that is give us T-shirts.
I think I have my T-shirt already, but if they're getting T-shirts, I got to. Oh, I've had my T-shirt for a year now. I'll turn it over to Makeba. So same thing, reintroduce yourself, and what would you do if Empire Avenue was yours? And yes, it dupes T-shirts. Makeba, just get your mic on.
It's on. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I'm Makeba, and I run a photography business and infuse that with social media to help small businesses market their products and services. I do a lot of event photography, especially in the social media space. But I found Empire Avenue through another photographer friend of mine who, around the same time, we decided to go full-time with photography business, and he got me into the website. And like Kim, I think it took me about 4 to 6 months before I actually came back to the site, because I was getting the email that, somebody bought this and shared of you. I'm like, who's buying me? What is this buying business? And, I went back to see what this is about, and I got into it, and I was like, well, I should give it a shot and see what's going on here. And I like the social media connections. Eventually met Ryan Ziegler and Anise Smith. And so then I had people to talk to, and I saw how they were doing things. Ryan with his writing and photography, his thoughts on, his analytical mind, how it worked, and meeting with Anise and see how she could, market you the shirt that's already on your back, and, QR code things, and just give some really good ideas. So I thought at that point that it was a real asset to me, because here I am trying to grow business, love social media anyway, and then there's a site where I can meet more people and have fun with it. And I knew, others would think, oh, this is just a game, but I saw more potential for that. If, after this time, pushing 2 years now, if Empire Avenue were mine, I do think that it's on a good path. And just a few things that I would want to implement would be more community value on the site, such as the communities that you have in place, and the updates that you've done are great. But I think that when I see the word engage, it should start at home. I mean, you don't send your kids out to go and talk to everybody else but you. They should start at home. So I would probably do something to, improve the community for people to go to and be part of, and make it, more active, similar to how Facebook groups work. It's really fast, it's really quick, and that's why everybody flocks there. But where's the value in that? Where's the value in that on the site itself? Another thing that I was thinking about is all the businesses that we have available through the profiles on Empire Avenue. If there was some sort of way for Empire Avenue, the company, to work with the people that maybe want to market and offer actual advertising on the site. So rather than go off the site and find other people, big names, to come in and place an ad, it's not another Facebook. Instead, start at home. Who's offering products and services that somebody may want to use? You already have a lot of brand names on there. What if Ford, you talk to Ford, and Ford had a fairly active Empire Avenue account. Maybe they could offer something to customers through Empire Avenue, and then it would branch out from there. Because what are we going to do? We're going to be like, oh my God, Ford is offering, a free coffee if you just go and check out a car on the lot this weekend. That's going to be all over Facebook, all over Twitter, marketing for them, money in Empire Avenue's pocket, and possibly something for Ford down the line. But, I'm just thinking, if it were my company, how could I make money without turning into another Facebook, where things happen behind the scenes that you have no idea about? They have all this data about you. Well, we're giving you this information. There's a lot of people that want to market, and I would probably just want to, add a way for people to start at home. If you're on Empire Avenue, I have this to offer, maybe you need it. Hey, I'll work with you to do this. Missions are great for that, but, it only goes to a certain point. And that's just a couple of things that were on my mind. Plus the fact that, yeah, I use it as a social CRM and would love to see a couple of other features available so that it could be a one-stop shop instead of Empire Avenue first and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other apps, just to get the one thing that I'm really trying to do. Other than that, I really do use Empire Avenue as a go-to space when I have something that is on my mind or, want to connect with other people.
Okay, so I'm going to turn it back to you, Dups and Ric, to wind it down and give us your final thoughts on the night before we shut down this broadcast.
First of all, thank you, Lavigne, for setting this up. It's been awesome. It's good to get some face-to-face feedback in one place. I think to wrap this up, what I've taken out of it is community is something that is important to everyone, including us. So therefore, putting the tools back in, or maybe reinvigorating what we've tried to build along the community lines, is something that we need to do. And bring people a little bit closer and help them to help others. I think that's something that I've taken out of this, and we'll definitely take that away. Makeba, your last bit of feedback on getting businesses to make offers on Empire Avenue is really important, and I think bringing your customers' offers in and having the opportunity to talk to us about it, not just through missions, but also through, let's say, exchanging EAVs for a service or something that you think would be valuable to the community on Empire Avenue, is absolutely something that we're open to. And we'd be more than happy to discuss that further with anyone who's got customers who would like to get engagement from Empire Avenue. And you guys are the biggest advocates, so we'd be more than happy to talk about how we can build a business relationship with your customers and have you there to help us do that. So that's another really important part that maybe we take it offline as part of this.
Perfect. Dups?
Again, thank you very much, Robert, for organizing this. You know, I echo pretty much everything that Rick says. I can wax poetic on all sorts of different things and bore the hell out of most people, but ultimately, community is community.
And I think that's
everyone sell Rick, please. Thank you very much. You know how I get treated, by the way, just in case you guys all wonder. This is how I get treated. Like, honestly.
He invites it. He invites it.
No, seriously, it's good to get feedback, and it's good to get it face to face. We're not a faceless company. I mean, we do get busy. I'm not going to pretend that we don't. Certainly, we have lots of priorities in front of us. But reach out to us. Tell us what you're thinking. Blogs, we read every blog that comes through on a Google alert for sure. But get it to us at dupesme, at Rickster101me on Twitter, or let us know on Empire Avenue for sure.
Well, and just to add to that, the power of getting in contact with us and just asking a question. Project Forgive. You know, Kim reached out to me. I was down in California in a coffee shop with Dups, as it so happened. She said, "I've got this great idea," and you know, blah 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 blah, speaking at 100 million miles an hour, and bang, the next day we had it done. So you know, we are reactive if people want to get involved with us. So please bring your businesses, bring your friends. We're more than happy to get involved in what you want to do personally, as well as your customers.
And you know, we also want to do some good. So I mean, recently we did coming out again from SubCon. It was SubCon with Liz Strauss and Terry Starbucker. They organized a great event. We were down there, and one of the charities wanted to do something as a day of action. So they got the SubCon people to tweet and do all sorts of stuff. In our case, we sponsored missions for them, and we actually gave them revenue for the day. So and you know, we'd like to think about doing that kind of thing more and more as well. And I guess yeah, thanks to everyone who's watching on YouTube. And hey, you know what? It's been a wild ride doing Empire Avenue. I can honestly say that some of the best people I've met have come from Empire Avenue. There are people whose houses have crashed at doing this, who I've only met through Empire Avenue, who I didn't even know until I met them. So
I know another business idea.
Oh yeah,
Airbnb.
Empire Avenue Airbnb. This is fantastic.
Bring your sleeping bag.
Oh man.
And on that note, we're going to call it a night. Thank you, Anise. Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Makeba. Thank you, Dups. Thank you, Rick. Thank you to those of us in Brantford. And to those of you on YouTube, this has been an interesting experiment for us. Hopefully the feed has been pretty good. We haven't been able to watch it, but it is going to be archived as soon as I click end broadcast. So I'm sure a few of us will go back and be checking on it tonight. And there you go. On that note, thank you, everybody.